Thank you.
More must be done to reverse the disposable dad so-called culture, which will soon see half of all teenagers living apart from their fathers.
Well, that's the view of a think tank called the Centre for Social Justice, which predicts there'll be 2 million single-parent families by 2015. It wants to strengthen the traditional family unit and bolster the role of fathers.
Among the measures it wants to introduce, giving unmarried fathers the right to be named on birth certificates without needing the mother's approval. To send a positive message, it wants registry office marriage fees to be scrapped for couples who attend preparation courses.
And a special cabinet role, it says, should be created to champion and promote families. Would these measures really make any difference? Does family structure really have that much impact on a child's future?
Well, joining us to discuss this is Christian Guy, who's director of the Centre for Social Justice, a think tank that seeks to address poverty and its causes. And in our London studio is Carol Davey from the single-parent charity Gingerbread. Morning, both. Thanks very much for joining us. Let's just quickly talk to you, Caroline, because we've put out pretty much the views of your view. What do you think that this kind of focus on families together being important?
To be honest, the report paints quite a melodramatic picture that I think simply doesn't reflect the reality of modern British family life, where we know that 1 in 4 families with children is headed by a single parent. That proportion hasn't changed in the last 15 years. Families do come in all shapes and sizes, and I'm sure what your viewers would recognise is that the vast majority of parents overwhelmingly want what's best for their kids and are doing a good job in often quite difficult circumstances bringing up those children. And what all the evidence tells us, and I think this report ignores, is that it's the biggest difference for children. And at a time when the forecast is that child poverty will go up in the next few years, that for us needs to be the focus of investment and action.
All right, Christian, your report is melodramatic and families come in all sorts of shapes and sizes.
I disagree with the first point and I agree with the second. We've been all over the country over the last 2 years trying to work out what's happening in Britain's families, and what we've seen is some incredible work by parents, including single parents, but a level of instability, trauma and breakdown that we think should concern us.
There is instability in families that have parents still married, and children who grow up watching their parents rowing and fighting for years on end will be more destabilised than children living in a happily run single-parent family, surely.
And one of the arguments we're making is that that experience of difficult family life is quite isolating, and we want more help to all kinds of families. So we know that, for example, half of children sitting their GCSEs this year will have seen their parents split. We know that in the poorest communities, family breakdown rips particularly hard, but we want to give people the tools they need to weather the storms, the inevitable shocks that come in family life, to see if we can reduce the level of breakdown. And we think that you can reduce it. You can't wipe it out, of course, but we think that the breakdown level is too high and that there are things you can do to help.
Let's talk to you, Caroline, about this line called disposable dads. I mean, how much difference having dads around can that make, do you think?
Well, having a good relationship with both parents, of course, is incredibly important. But what the report misses is that the majority of children raised by single parents in separated families do have contact with their other parent. Often that's very good, high-quality contact and relationships, and in fact increasingly we're seeing both parents sharing the care of their children. So just to say because your parents are separated you won't have that contact, you won't have that relationship, is really quite misleading actually.
How much difference does it make, Christian, the institution of marriage? Isn't it more important to focus on the parents staying together, married or not?
First of all, I think we've got to back commitment and help people to stay together if they want to stay together. And for couples that don't, we've got to make sure that fathers are engaged, and I think it's really important that we do that. But marriage is, it seems, unusual if you look at the evidence and the statistics, and we think that more could be done politically to support it. There's a fear of marriage when you come and talk to politicians, but it's not about judging people who aren't married, but if you look at the data, the level of stability in marriage is much higher than any other kind of family form, and marriage therefore has to be part of a picture that says if you want to bring stability to our homes and our country, marriage has to be part of that solution.
Caroline, you'd agree it's part of the solution, would you?
Well, we support families in all shapes and sizes. Many single parents were married and had their children in very committed relationships. But one of the proposals that I know the Centre for Social Justice is proposing that we are very worried about is the doubling of the marriage tax allowance, which would cost hundreds of millions of pounds each year at a time when we're very clear the country has very little money to spend. And that's a policy that the Prime Minister himself has admitted would be purely symbolic, would make no difference to the decisions that people make. And what we think hundreds of millions of pounds should be spent on is supporting all kinds of families to bring up their kids as they know best.
All right. Carol Davey, thanks very much. Christian Guy, thanks to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of you who've sent in comments as well. I know that lots